Yes, indeed, somehow this patch the news keep pouring out. But among all the news about skins and gameplay and all the teasers for possible cinematics, we did also get news for how the lore of League of Legends is gonna be handled. And that is something I've been waiting for a long time. Believe it or not, we needed some of the holes fixed right as the first Arcane came out. But it's better late than never, and so today we are gonna be talking about League's lore. You see, these awesome news came out in the patch notes of 25.17. Now let me ask you one thing. How many lore nerds read patch notes? But yes, if you go through all the new changes, including new skins, doom bots and buffs and nerfs, you'll get to two pieces that are connected to lore. One of them is the news that Atakhan is now armed. I guess we all get that joke. You'll notice with this patch, Atakhan now has a weapon, a totally normal weapon. Mechanically, we are not making any changes. It's just a visual change. We see you lore fans reading here for clues on what this means. Maybe he just felt like it, okay? Or maybe it was Maybelline. So yes, Riot directly addressed the fact that Atakhan now has a new weapon. All things considered, it still seems like LeBlanc had the brilliant idea of merging a Darkin and a Demon. But that is not the only lore update in those patch notes. Because then we also get to Xin Zhao's part. With Xin Zhao's update in 25.17, we're going to be updating how his lore is presented on his universe page to best represent where things currently stand, and exist for him in our seasonal stories at the time of its release. This will cover the year so far and his experiences through the seasons and their various motion comics and the Season 2 metagame. That would be the Battle for Koshin. Now if you go to the universe page, you will see that nothing has changed yet. His bio is basically his bio up until the point the Noxian season starts, meaning it is all before the events of the present days. And in fact, that's what the next part confirms. For those of you who want clarity about the timeline, the 3 seasons of 2025 follow the events of Arcane directly. Shortly after Swain's coup within Noxus, but before some of the more recent events, such as Silas's rebellion in Demacia. So finally, we got an official timeline not only for the current seasons, but also for Arcane. It's just funny that this confirmation came out in patch notes. But yes, Arcane and everything that is happening right now is happening right after the Noxian invasion of Ionia ended. Swain returned back to Noxus, he killed Darkwill, but it seems like they haven't established the Triforix yet, or at least it's happening right now, which means it is before the Mageseekers happened, which also means that King Jarvan III is still alive. So finally, we know when this is happening. As we move forward with seasons, we're looking for ways to curate and reflect champions' updated lore within their universe pages, whether they are told in metagames, motion comic, cinematics, or anywhere else. Now, this is interesting because there is a bunch of stories that we've been waiting for a while now. As an example, Riot confirmed that they did already rewrite a lot of the champions who did not appear in Arcane but are still related to Piltover. For example, the stories of Blitzcrank and Camille should be ready, but Riot doesn't know when to drop it. And now I'm kinda afraid because it may seem like we may have to wait for like a Piltover update in the story for us to get those stories. But again, notice that it is Riot's plan to reflect on the champions' stories as events happen. Meaning that at the end of 2025, Xin Zhao's lore and possibly LeBlanc's lore should cover what actually happened here. Which might also mean that Vladimir might get an update too. And so, it seems like Riot finally wants to utilize the universe page to tell lore. We've been waiting for this for a while. But that is not where the lore updates end. Because next, Riot already started dropping some cool things connected to the last season of 2025. First of all, yes, once again, Riot teased the new skin. We talked about that twice, so just one more time, just to be safe. Xin Zhao's new skin kinda teases what might happen. You can see that one of his hand is spirity, meaning that something is gonna happen to it. Possibly he is gonna pick up the Darkin, and possibly Yunara might cleanse it to give him the spirity hand. And you can also see that the other half of his body is now Ionian themed, so he might borrow a thing or two from the Kinku. Also, the skin itself is called Trials of Twilight Xin Zhao, meaning it is related to fighting Atakhan and the Darkin and whatever else is gonna happen. And all of that is also teased in the new official cover art for the season. And this one is where a really big twist might be teased. You see, at first glance, you can see that Xin Zhao is gonna be fighting Atakhan in some way. Now, if you really connect all the dots, the latest teaser showed us that Fortiche now has a 3D model of Xin Zhao, and they also have a 3D model for Atakhan. Wouldn't it be cool if we got a Fortiche cinematic where the two fight? But also you can see that here we are in what seems to be the ruins of Demacia, which once again teases that all the Darkin skins are a vision that LeBlanc gave to Xin Zhao to make him hate the Darkin. This could be one of the ways that LeBlanc convinces Xin Zhao to pick up the Darkin. Because if he doesn't follow what LeBlanc is saying, his kingdom is gonna be doomed. You can also see that these nightmarish visions are being teased with the black goop that is behind Xin Zhao here. From the last cinematic teaser, we learned that all of this is connected to Atakhan. Atakhan is the black goop. And so through Atakhan, LeBlanc is giving him these nightmares. Now next, on Atakhan himself, you can notice that his hand is now properly fused with a new weapon. Is it possibly the Darkin? Well, we can't see the eye here, but the eye is still present in the game, so most definitely. But most importantly, this entire scene is covered in those subtle golden seams. Now sure, LeBlanc's theme is all about mirrors and shards and stuff like that. So on one hand, you could consider this shards of LeBlanc's mirage. Which yes, I do believe partially that is happening. But more than that, this is also connected to something else. Specifically, to this icon that also appeared on PBE. Or at least the old version was this, because the new version is that. The change might be subtle, but it does have the colored piece in the middle. Why is it important? Well, that part matches the other art perfectly. Now at first, I wouldn't be surprised if this golden seaming was teasing the theme of the next champion. Just like how someone like Gwen is heavily connected to stitching, so can the next champion be all about gold seams and repairing things. And that's because these golden seams are something called kintsugi. Kintsugi is a Japanese art of repairing broken pottery, with the point being that you don't just repair things so they look like they are new. Instead, you fix it by using the seams to preserve the item's story. Oftentimes, the glue used for this is gold so that the history really stands out. And the way all of this is connected to Runeterra is really interesting. From the very beginning of this storyline, LeBlanc broke the pieces of Atakhan and Katashli apart, she stitched together all of Atakhan's past memories, after which she started looking into fusing demons and mortals and possibly Darkin. And all of this fusing together may very well be related to all the seams. That's why the icon matches the art perfectly. But that's not the only link to League's lore. Summoning my autistic ability to remember niche parts of the stories, I remember there was a story that was related to exactly that. It is a part of a story called Seams and Scars. Here, Riven met a mender who is able to repair things. So naturally, Riven wanted her to repair her blade, which was made by LeBlanc's runeweavers. And in this specific scene, the mender showed her abilities after Riven broke a plate. But Muramat wasn't listening. Instead, she cradled the broken plate in her hands and she held the shards to her ear, humming softly. Slowly, she adjusted her pitch, calling to the spirits within the clay. The back of her skull tingled when she hit the right note, as the spirits reverberated with her hum. Holding the note, Muramat lifted her necklace and flicked its chimes until she found the one that joined her and the spirit in the song. She stared at the chimes in the firelight. Each one had been inscribed with a symbol that identified how to mend a resonant spirit. This symbol was for smoke, a single line with a curve that became more pronounced towards the end. Muramat lifted the shards above the fire to bathe them in the smoke. It only took moments before they knitted back together, with only a few coal-colored seams and ridges to show the plate had ever been broken. "I'm a mender," she said as she held the pottery out to a wide-eyed Riven. "No need to replace anything." So as you can see, these seams are already linked to stories we got from Ionia, which is where the story is currently happening. However, I will have to say that all of these golden themes also remind me of Shurima for obvious reasons. But even that would make sense, since if all of this is linked to the Darkin, that's where the Darkin came from. And so while most people may think that this one icon is pretty weird, and it may be teasing a new skin for that one pottery skin line, the truth is, it is teasing lore. And now it is all about what kind of lore is gonna come out of that. But that is it for all that we can mention about the themes. And so lastly, we can mention that as Riot gave us the timeline for the events that are gonna happen in this patch, they did also mention that we will get a new motion comic. So far, these motion comics have been absolutely amazing, and we are gonna get a new one called The Truth, which is gonna feature the one battle where Aatrox marched onto ancient Demacia. Now, if you remember League's past cinematics, you may remember that the Still Here cinematic showed us exactly that. There we could see Gale and Morgana protecting old Demacia from Aatrox. But since this one is called The Truth, we should be ready for some heavy plot twists. Because this is a very historical moment that happened during the Darkin Wars. Or at least very historical for the continent of Valoran. So why is that related to what is happening with the Darkin in Ionia? Well, it definitely seems suspicious. Maybe there's gonna be something more that is revealed about the Darkin lore. Now, Zolani already gave us a lot of plot twists around the Darkin, and so I wonder, will Riot honor the legacy of Zolani? Or will they make up another obstacle that the Darkin has to deal with? Regardless, one thing seems obvious. When we get to the new motion comic, and as we cover all the new lore, I will have to cover the old cinematic again, which I am not against because that was one of League's most popular cinematics.